Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karotiyah. The very first verse of this chapter puts us on a high. The power that resides in just doing what you have to do, without looking for a fruit, without looking for a result, without depending upon the outcome of that action, is something that you need to pause, to think over, to understand, and more importantly, implement in life. What is this power? It comes from a feeling of self-sufficiency. Swami Ramatirtha, more than 100 years ago, said, if you are not happy as you are, where you will never be happy. And all of us are looking for happiness in the future. We're looking for happiness provided something changes in the environment. And when you listen to Swami Ramatirtha's statement, it then hits home that as you are where you are, never mind how much or less of the world you have, you and I have enough and more to be content about, to be happy with. And arising out of this sense of self-sufficiency, this sense of having been blessed with so many millions of things that you and I have access to, comes this spirit of yajna that the Gita speaks of. It is because we are not functioning in the spirit of yajna that we are beset with all kinds of problems, individually, socially, nationally, internationally. And what the world needs badly is this spirit of yajna that the first verse of the 6th chapter of the Gita speaks of. The power that there is in just performing pure action, in giving 100% of yourself to the present without meandering to the past or the future, without looking for motivation from the past, which is desire, without looking for a fruit. This concept of action being performed completely free from result orientation, fruit-driven attitude is something that is there only in the Bhagavad Gita, spelt out so beautifully in the Indian culture. Nowhere else in the world do you get this concept, leave alone living. And we, the recipients, the beneficiaries of this knowledge, are totally out of sync with what is being said. What a tragedy. The rest of the world doesn't have this knowledge and they don't live it. That's not so bad. But the fact that you and I have this knowledge, have access to this knowledge, we learn it, we repeat it, we speak of it, but we don't live it, is the greatest tragedy. And the day we commit ourselves to let me just perform what I have to do, and this is the spirit of nature, the spirit of yajna that pervades in the universe, in the world. If you take a look at nature, you find just now, I'm sure as all of you were coming to the hall, you might have looked out and noticed the sun. Has it ever occurred to you that for millions of years the sun has been giving valuable light and heat and an inexhaustible source of energy? Never does it give you an energy bill. Thank God for that. You and I would be broke if the sun were to give an energy bill. Nor is it interested in our welfare. It just does what it has to do. Its nature is to give heat and light and energy and warmth and vitality, and that's what it does. There is no motive either for a selfish return or to do good to humanity or to the universe. The flowers give fragrance. You just see flowers here. The shape of the flower, the fragrance that the flower has, it lifts your heart. But it gives this irrespective of whether it has an audience or not, irrespective of whether the audience appreciates its fragrance and color and form or not. It gives fragrance because its nature is to give fragrance. There is no selfish motive to it, nor is there an unselfish motive to give back to society. The clouds give vitality, rain. You know how dependent we are on the rains. Whole nation, the economy is dependent on the monsoon. Not just the monsoon, the fact that the monsoon arrives on time. If it comes late, we're in trouble, like now. If it comes early, we're in trouble. Precisely at the right time, the monsoons come. There's no question of a result orientation. There's no question of a fruit. There is no karma phala that it is seeking. Just does what it has to do and vitalizes us, gives us life. The clouds give rain. It's amazing. I mean, all of us have learned this water cycle. But the fact that how the cloud forms an identity of its own, and how in giving it dissolves itself. It gives of itself so much that in the bargain, in the end, it disintegrates itself. And this concept has been put forth so beautifully by, you have to fall back on poets. That's why philosophers were poets. The word muni, which we saw yesterday, kavi, these are words which now, kavi means a poet now, but kavi meant a seer, muni means a sage. When you awaken to that higher pattern in life, when you rise to this perception, when this jnana chakshu, the third eye, opens up within you, then you break out into poetry, you break out into music, and all the fine things of life come out of you. So Wordsworth gave out this magnificent idea, the spirit of yajna, in a poem called Daffodils, which I'm sure every one of us has learnt in school. But the meaning of it, the spirit behind it, is exactly what the Gita is speaking of in the first verse of the 6th chapter of the Gita. Wordsworth must have studied the Gita. And in that poem, he speaks of this, how once you get into the spirit of yajna, the rewards that come out of it are so magnificent. He's put it, this serendipity that falls on you. You're not looking for it, but it comes to you. And he says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. Lonely means not lonely, alone. And he equates the spirit of giving with a cloud because it's the highest form of giving that floats on high over hills and vales, or vales and hills. And the moment you get into the spirit of giving, you're lifted above the dvandvas, the pairs of opposites, the hills and the vales of life. And then, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, and then this serendipitous experience comes upon you, this sudden, unexpected, pleasurable experience which you didn't know existed. This is the problem. The problem why we are not getting into the spirit of yajna is because we have never experienced the rewards of yajna. We don't know what it is. We've never experienced this joy and happiness that comes from just doing what you have to do. And so this experience suddenly comes upon him. A host of golden daffodils. And then he goes on, like only a poet can, to describe that bliss, that exuberance, that intoxication that comes from selfless activity. It is only when you don't experience this intoxication from within that you look for it from outside. Right? Every one of us is looking for the intoxication from outside in some way or the other. But the problem with external intoxication is that it is followed by what? Hangover, correct. The Gita gives you permanent, non-stop intoxication 24/7 without any hangover. Why don't you take that? And that comes from this spirit of yajna, selfless activity. When you're lifted, you're liberated from the burden of having to worry about what happened in the past. You're free of the anxiety for what will happen in the future or what will not happen in the future. Every one of us is burdened with this. And the latest is, oil prices are going up. So what? Or US elections, I don't know what is going to happen. How is it going to impact? If you don't have something to worry about in your environment, you pick up something from far away to worry about. What will happen to me is the problem. This is what robs us of our happiness, of our bliss, of this spirit of yajna that we are born to live. If you look around you, every aspect of life functions in a spirit of yajna, and therefore no other creature, no other entity in the universe is sorrowful, depressed, anxious, panic-stricken, except the human being. Have you ever wondered why is it that no pigeon ever requires antidepressants? No crow is worried about what's going to happen to it. No dog, no crocodile, even though they are exterminated. They are not bothered. They are not anxious. They don't have anxiety attacks or panic-stricken behavior, except the human being. And only the human being is well taken care of. Meaning all of us are taking care of ourselves. We've conquered the world, nature. We have harnessed the forces of nature for our benefit. And still, ironically, it's only the human being who is most insecure. And this insecurity, anxiety and panic comes from obsession with ourselves. It's just I, me and myself. So yesterday we spoke of selfish action, unselfish action, selfless action, because in the first verse of this chapter he speaks of selfless activity. Immediately takes off into that realm because he can't adjust to selfish and unselfish activity. See, you automatically behave according to your nature, and Krishna's nature is selflessness. And a selfless person, if at all he is drawn to activity in the world, there is only one thing that motivates him, and that is loka sangraha, for the benefit of humanity. Otherwise, he is content within himself, and there are two Sanskrit words that convey this so beautifully. Kritartha, kritakritya. Kritartha means completely fulfilled. He has achieved what he had to achieve in life, which is the state of selflessness. Kritakritya, he's done what he had to do. It could be the smallest of things, the slightest of things. It's not how big or small an action that you perform that matters. What matters is you've done your bit. And if each one of us in this homogeneous orchestra of life just does our bit to the best of our ability, the totality will take care of itself. But here you and I are not doing what we ought to do and unnecessarily interfering with the totality, and that's what causes the chaos and confusion. So, what happens when you perform selfish action? Number one is you experience a fatigue, isn't that so? But at the end of the day, if you interview people who are going home from their offices, there's one thing that comes across in it, oh, I'm so tired. In fact, people feel tired by 10:30 in the morning. What is the reason? Why is it that we are feeling tired all the time? It's not because of physical activity. Most of us are leading sedentary lives. It's not the physical activity, it's the mental tension and the stress and the selfishness, the agitations that leads to fatigue. The moment you become unselfish, you get energized. It's as if you get energy from some source that you didn't know existed. Anything. The slightest of thing, you stretch beyond your selfish interests and do something for somebody where there's no return for you or no perceived return for you. And by God, you get energized. If you reach the state of selflessness, you're self-charged, you're invigorated, rejuvenated, vitalized. Swami Dhammatirtha again said a magnificent sentence. He says, he gave the definition of rest as intense work. Intense work is rest. To a person who is performing selfless activity, the action itself is rest. So renunciation is not giving up action. It's giving up the retarding forces, it's giving up the mental agitations, it's giving up the roadblocks that come in the way of perfect action. Second, the moment you're engaged in selfish activity, you're bored with life. Ask anybody, how's life with you? The same old stuff, boring. A college girl came to me the other day, and even the manner in which she was speaking, there's no energy even to speak. No, I feel so tired. You feel so tired, what do you do? She herself fortunately admitted, she said, I do nothing but I get tired. And how's college? Boring. Lectures are boring, friends are boring, everything is boring. How can you go through life when you're tired and bored with life? And this again comes from selfishness. The drudgery of life. You know, yesterday there was an interesting article about a jockey who's just about to retire. And he says, for 20 years he has not been able to eat what he wants to eat. And it is that drudgery that is driving him to retire. Because all the time he has to keep his attention on, okay, what is that? 55 kilos. I can't exceed that. That's a drudgery, boring. And suddenly it occurred to me, you take a person like Gandhiji, his entire life, I don't think he ate a tandoori chicken or what is that, naan or whatever it is, what you consider as good food. Never did he feel deprived, never did he feel, he didn't even feel the loss. Why is it that the same thing is drudgery to one person, is exciting to another person? It's because that's setting aside your selfish interests and reaching out to somebody, someone, something, anything other than yourself. And by the time you come to selfless activity, it's an exhilaration. You see, when you're unselfish, you're enthusiastic about life. And selfless, you're intoxicated. And this is what is conveyed by various people in various ways. They say Lord Shiva, when he came to realize the self, when he got to the state of self-realization, how did he manifest it? How did he show it? He says that the thrill, the bliss was so much that he spontaneously broke into a dance, and that is called the famous dance of Lord Shiva. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was so intoxicated with life that when Narendra came along, Swami Vivekananda came along, anybody came along, he'd do service. He would take the food and feed him, a grown adult. And you'd sit there and say, what kind of a Swami is he? What kind of a realized soul is he? But that, if you understand what it is to feel this irrepressible joy and bliss, the problem is we can't understand. Not only do we not understand, we get irritated if somebody is cheerful. Because we are so bogged down with our own problems. And if somebody is cheerful and happy and intoxicated with life, it actually irritates you. You say, what is there to be so happy about? When you're selfish, you invariably fail. Something or the other goes wrong with your activity. And you think it's because you've missed out this detail, you didn't think of that, and you didn't do this. No, it has nothing to do with the detail. It has something to do with your attitude to action. So when things go wrong with your actions, it's a wake-up call to look back and examine your attitude. The moment you turn unselfish, it's as if the forces of nature conspire to serve you. Little thing, you step out, you do something for a higher cause, and you find help comes to you from as if nowhere. And if you become selfless, you achieve the impossible. Yesterday we saw there's no such thing as impossible with a selfless person, the selfless activity. When you're selfish, you're fearful, you're beset with fears and insecurities. The moment you turn unselfish, you're confident. You may not have anybody backing you, you may not have in politics they say you have someone backing you. You may not have anybody backing you, but you're confident. You're confident because you know you're doing what you ought to do. The law of karma will take care of itself. It will take care of you. And when you become selfless, you're totally fearless. Not even death can shake you from this state of fearlessness, as in the case of Nachiketas, as in the case of Prahlada. Can you imagine this young boy? Can you imagine what it is to have the whole system against you? His father was the king. It's like going to the United States. It's happened. These frightening things have happened to some people. Walking into the United States and the whole state is against you. It's a frightening situation to be in. But Prahlada was unflinching fearlessness. He simply adhered to what he thought was right, and as it happened, nature bent to accommodate him. The forces of fire did not burn him. The forces of wild elephants did not affect him. Poison in the snakes did not affect him. And this kind of thing. See, all these things are put poetically, they're exaggerated to get the point across to us that fearlessness is an inherent human quality. So therefore, if you are fearing, if you're fearful, there's something wrong with your attitude. When you're selfish, you will be in stress. So if you are in stress, it means you're selfish. Don't dodge, don't duck this. There are people who say, I am in stress, but I'm not selfish. That is as impossible as saying, I'll jump out of the window and go flying. It's a law. The moment you turn unselfish, you are less in stress. But you still have stress. Why? Because you are making demands on the environment which are unreasonable. And therefore they will be thwarted. It's interesting to see an unselfish person demands unselfishness from other people which he has no business to. If you're unselfish, you must understand the environment will be selfish. They will be uninspired. They will be what they are. You have no business to expect anything from anybody. So, even an unselfish person will be in stress, but far less. It is only a selfless person who has zero stress. He makes no demands on the world, and therefore the world does not impact him in any way. When you're selfish, you feel a sense of isolation, loneliness. And that's why you want to hang on to things and beings and family members to remain connected. You don't understand that no family member, no friend, nobody in the environment can take away the sense of loneliness that you feel. And the loneliness you feel is not because others are not catering to you. The loneliness you feel because you have isolated yourself. The moment you're selfish, you have isolated yourself from the totality. The moment you get unselfish, you feel connected with the world, and that's such a fabulous state to be in. You know deep down that there are so many people in the world who feel the same way as you do, or whether they feel the same way or not, it doesn't bother you. You don't care. You feel connected. And when you're selfless, you have re-established your connection with the divine, and there's this divine ecstasy that you get into. When you're selfish, your desires increase. A bhogi, as we saw yesterday, When you're unselfish, your desires reduce, and you're selfless, zero desires. Therefore, when you're selfish, you're unhappy. The more the desires you have, the less the happiness. Desires are inversely proportional to the happiness that you experience. This is something that the modern world does not understand or does not want to accept. So therefore, the happiness quotient, this